Hello, welcome to workout number 2, guys. We're starting out with the dumbbell overhead press, 6 rounds of 3, reverse lunges combined with dumbbell floor presses. And then we've got lateral lunges, glute bridges, and some back extensions. Okay, so starting with the overhead press. You're going to have one dumbbell in each hand. Starting position looks just like this. Our forearms should be fairly vertical. Keeping our body nice and straight, core engaged. We're going to go straight up overhead with both dumbbells. Back down to the start position. Straight up overhead again. I want to make sure that we're not bridging up with our back as the weight moves up overhead. I want to make sure that the shoulders are going through their full range of motion. If your body arches up like this, you're in fact not actually getting your shoulders all the way back. So 6 rounds of 3. Pick a weight that's challenging, but one that you know you can get through all 3 sets with. I hired a cameraman. Okay, next 2 exercises. Exercises, a reverse lunge and a dumbbell floor press. So a reverse lunge, starting with our feet shoulder width apart. We're going to step back, down to the ground, back up, back, down to the ground, back up. This is another 5 rounds of 5 here. When it comes to any kind of single arm or leg movement, we're going to do all one side before moving to the other side. And when it's 5 on each side. So you can start with just body weight on that, but if that's not challenging enough, you can hold the dumbbell up in the goblet position, just like we did with the squats yesterday. Okay. And on these exercises, you might note that I wrote down something called tempo in the notes. Tempo pretty basically is the first number corresponds to the lowering of the weight. The second number corresponds to the amount of time you pause. And then the last number is when the weight's moving back up. Cameo appearance. So I think I've got this one listed as 3, 0, 1. So what that means is we want to take 1, 2, 3, no pause, and then a 1 for the way up. And the 3, 0, 1 just means that we come up explosively. It doesn't have to take 1 second. That 3 is pretty standard. All it really means there is that we're not losing form and plummeting to the ground. On this exercise, we're lowering down. And on this one, there's an actual pause. There's an actual pause in the bottom. You want to let your arms relax into the ground and then fire back up. Want to keep our shoulder blades pinned together into the ground. That's kind of like our shelf. Our body weight's resting on the shoulder blades, retracted underneath us, pressing straight up like that. So remember, on these ones, we go back and forth between the lunges and the dumbbell presses. Okay, 3, 1, 1 on that. So on the dumbbell presses, we're lowering to a count of 3. 1 second pause in the bottom just to make sure that we're relaxing fully, and then come up explosively. Okay, next 3 exercises. We've got a lateral lunge. This can be done with a dumbbell, but until you're flexible enough, I would definitely make sure that you're starting with body weight. So on a lateral lunge, we're getting in a wide stance, probably wider than you would think. We're going to lean over to one side. That's one for that side. Over to this side. That's one for that side. So if you find yourself with your weight over your outside foot, it's because it's not wide enough. If you find yourself stretching a lot so that you can't get all the way down, well, your range of motion will improve. That's why we're doing some stuff like this. If you're getting kind of funkiness in the ankles, you can play with turning your feet out more or less. You can also play with letting this foot rise up a little bit if that range of motion is really just limited by flexibility That's going to help there. The next exercise after that is a glute bridge. You guys should know this because we do the same thing in the warm-up. Just up, just like this. So you can take a weight and put it here. Once that becomes uncomfortable, because it's kind of just an uncomfortable exercise to load, we can, one foot elevated, the other foot in, and we can do the exact same thing, but on one leg. Okay? The last exercise you have to venture out into your gym a little bit and find a machine that looks something like this. Chances are it'll be up a lot higher off the ground. You'll see why in a second. Might be called a Roman chair. It could be called a back extension machine. You might also find it at a 45-degree angle, but looking fairly similar. None of that really matters. You're going to lock your feet into it. And your main focus here is keeping your back nice and flat on the way down. So you're not rounding over like that. You're keeping your back flat. As far as you can stretch, you might feel a stretch in your hamstrings. And then to come back up, instead of thinking about throwing your shoulders back, when we think about moving our shoulders back, that's going to cause this excessive arch in the low back. Instead, we want to think about pushing the hips forward into the pad. That one you should feel in your hamstrings, your glutes, and your back. Those glute bridges, hopefully we feel them right in the glutes. The lateral lunges at this point might be more of a stretch than anything, but eventually once you're flexible enough, it will be a challenging exercise for the quads and the hips, so the front of your thigh. And that is all.